You know that famous quote about fighting evil? What if I told you it's actually, well, a bit of a distraction? We're about to see how the real challenge of doing good isn't found in some simple, catchy slogan, but in the absolute chaos of an ancient battlefield. Right at the moment, a hero completely falls apart. This is the story of a tidy quote versus a messy, terrible reality. I mean, you've heard this one, right? Of course you have. It might just be the most famous political quote in the entire world. It's this powerful, super simple call to action that you hear from, well, everyone, no matter what their politics are. It just feels true, like it's written in stone. And it's so common that you'll see it in a ton of different flavors. Necessary becomes essential or required. Good men becomes good people. But no matter how it's tweaked, the credit almost always goes to the same guy, the 18th century philosopher Edmund Burke. Okay, so here's the kicker. After all this time, after being quoted by presidents, by activists, by basically everyone, there is zero evidence Edmund Burke ever said or wrote this. Nothing. Not a single trace in any of his extensive writings. The most famous quote about fighting evil? It's a ghost, a complete invention. So if that famous quote gives us this false sense of clarity, where can we find a real one? Well, let's turn to a story that just dives headfirst into complexity. We're going to the very beginning of the ancient Indian epic, the Mahabharata, to a battlefield called Kurukshetra. And this is no clean fight of good versus evil. No, this is a devastating, heartbreaking war between cousins. So, the battle lines are literally drawn between family. On one side, you've got the Pandavas, 5 brothers who are the rightful heirs to the kingdom. And on the other, they're 100 cousins, the Kauravas, who've stolen the throne. And get this, the Kauravas, the guys in the wrong, have a much bigger army, 11 regiments to the Pandavas' 7. The odds are stacked against the good guys from the very start. This whole part of the epic, the part about the battle, is called the Bhagavad Gita, and it all begins with this one question. The blind king, Dhritarashtra, who's the father of the bad guys, by the way, is miles away from the action. So he asks his advisor, Sanjaya, who's been given this kind of mystical sight, to tell him what's going down on the battlefield. Now, you would expect the main villain, Duryodhana, to be just brimming with confidence, right? He's got the bigger army, after all. But his first words on the battlefield? They aren't some triumphant roar. Nope. They reveal he's actually terrified. Sanjaya, the advisor, reports that the first thing Duryodhana does is check out the enemy. And he sees their army arranged in this tight, super disciplined formation called the Vajra, the thunderbolt. And even though he has more soldiers, the sight of this tactical skill just fills him with fear. The man on the wrong side of this fight is already rattled. So he rushes over to his own general, a man named Drona, and delivers this, well, it's a masterclass in manipulation. Instead of a confident battle cry, he starts talking about how mighty the smaller enemy army looks. He points out that the other army's commander is Drona's own wise disciple, basically planting this seed of doubt. Hey, are you going to go easy on your old students? This is not the speech of a powerful tyrant. It's the panicked rambling of a guy who's afraid his own side is going to betray him. Okay, so the villain's a nervous wreck. What about our hero? Let's switch over to the Pandavas' greatest warrior, the legendary archer Arjuna. Just as the battle is about to kick off, he has a conscience that threatens to end this whole war before a single arrow even flies. All geared up and ready for battle, Arjuna makes what seems like a simple request to his charioteer and best friend, Krishna. He says, hey, can you drive me out into the middle, into the space between the two armies? I want to get a good look at who I'm about to fight. And there, in that no man's land, the reality just slams into him. This isn't some faceless enemy horde. He sees his great-grandfather. He sees his most revered teacher. He sees uncles and cousins and childhood friends. He sees his own family, all gathered together to kill each other. And the result is a total shutdown, a complete physical and moral collapse. The greatest warrior of his time starts to tremble, his skin feels like it's on fire, and his legendary bow literally slips out of his hand. He tells Christian he can't see any good coming from this, even if they win. And then he just gives up. The good man, who is supposed to fight evil, does nothing. He says, I will not fight. And let's be clear, this isn't just him getting cold feet. This is a massive philosophical crisis. This is the exact moment where a simple, neat little slogan, like good men must do something, just shatters against the hard wall of reality. See, Arjuna is caught between two huge, competing ideas about what it even means to be good. On one hand, you have the ethics of duty. Philosophers call it deontology. As a warrior, it's his sacred duty to stand up and fight for what's right. But then, on the other hand, you have the ethics of outcomes, or consequentialism. He can see, plain as day, that the direct consequence of doing his duty is going to be the horrific slaughter of his entire family. And this is the massive difference between that simple slogan and Arjuna's complex reality. The fake quote makes it sound like choosing good is easy, but for Arjuna, both choices are terrible. Doing nothing means evil wins, but doing something means murdering his own family. His problem isn't a failure to act, it's the terrifying, paralyzing impossibility of knowing what the right action even is. So what happens when the slogans fail? When our own moral compass starts spinning and leaves us totally paralyzed? Well, the Gita suggests the answer isn't a rule, it's a relationship. Hey, remember that name Arjuna used when he asked Krishna to drive the chariot? He called him Achyuta. This is a huge clue. That name means the infallible one, or he who never falls. I mean, think about the irony for a second. At the exact moment Arjuna himself is about to completely collapse, he instinctively turns to the one person who is incapable of falling. And this name, Achyuta, it's not a one-off thing. It pops up 3 times, and it basically maps out Arjuna's whole journey. First, in that initial request, which shows his trust. Then later, after Krishna reveals his awe-inspiring divine form, Arjuna apologizes for ever treating him as just a friend, and he calls him Achyuta again, trusting that the infallible one will surely forgive him. And finally, at the very end of their long talk, when all his doubt is gone, he credits Achyuta for his new clarity. The solution wasn't some slogan he remembered. It was a deep, honest conversation with a trusted, infallible friend. So that's where we land. That fake quote is popular because it's easy. It makes morality seem simple, black and white. But Arjuna's crisis on that battlefield shows us something profound, that real moral clarity isn't found in a simple slogan. It's found in having the courage to admit when we're lost, and the wisdom to turn to someone or something that we trust to be steady when we feel like